Begin? Okie dokie. Well, hello and welcome to the third instalment of Biodynamics 101. My name's Rowan, and as always, it's a pleasure to be here again this evening. Before we start, I'd just like to let those of you joining us live know that there'll be some useful links pasted into chat, and for anyone listening back on YouTube, those links will be in the description for you. If you are listening on YouTube and you'd like to tune in live next time to this or one of our many other lecture series, head over to rosefolk.xyz to learn more. That's rosefolk.xyz. I'd like to thank everyone for their patience with me. I've missed the last 2 weeks for personal reasons, but I'm really glad to be back for this week's session. This week, we'll be discussing the biodynamic planting calendar, its uses and how the planets correlate with our plants. Our session today will probably be a bit shorter than usual, partially because this is something I'm still learning about myself, and partially because a lot of it does feel quite self-explanatory. First I shall, as always, read us in with a prayer by Adam Bittleston. Measureless the starry heights, and measureless the depths of earth, and about us everywhere, light receiving, warmed by wonder, spirit weave man's destiny. May the shelter of this house be a place of wakening, peace within us, peace among us. Amen. So the biodynamic calendar was first written by a woman called Maria Thun 62 years ago, and it's a planting guide that uses the positioning of the moon and suns to calculate optimal times for planting and harvesting different kinds of crops. Each month, the moon moves through the 12 zodiac signs, known as the moon's sidereal rhythm. Each zodiac constellation has an association with one of the 4 elements: earth, water, air, and fire, and each element, in turn, represents a different part of the plant. The element of earth represents the roots, water, the leaves, air, the flowers, and fire, the fruit. Root days happen when the moon passes in front of the constellations of Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo, the earth signs. Usually, the moon is in front of these constellations for about 2 or 3 days, and it visits every 9. On root days, you should be sowing and tending to root crops, such as potatoes and carrots. You can expect a better, more quality yield of crops, and when harvested on root days, they might even store a bit longer. Leaf days happen when the moon passes in front of the water constellations of Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. This happens every 8 days, and it will stay there for about 1.5 to 2.5 days. On leaf days, it's best to sow and care for your leafy crops, like spinach and salad leaves, as well as leafy herbs like coriander. Leaf crops store best if they're harvested on flower or fruit days. So you want to be tending for leaf crops on leaf days, harvesting them on flower or fruit days. Flower days occur when the moon passes in front of Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra, the air signs. The moon passes through an air sign every 9 days, and it usually stays there for 2 or 3 days. Flower days are best for everything relating to flowering plants, trees, shrubs, and herbs. If you pick your flowers before noon on flower days, you'll ensure they stay pretty and upright for longer, and they'll be more intensely scented. Fruit days happen when the moon is in front of a fire constellation, such as Sagittarius, Aries, and Leo. Usually it passes through a fire constellation every 8 or 9 days, staying for 2 to 2.5. Fruit days, as you may expect, benefit all fruits and plants we eat the fruits of, such as tomatoes, peas and beans, and the likes. Interestingly, wines drunk on fruit days taste the best. Almost a little bit like the wine stores the memory of how it responded when it was a grape on a vine. Looking at the calendar, one may notice that some days, today being a good example, the day is split between 2 parts. Today, here in the UK, the 27th of May is a root day, but at 9:44 this evening, it becomes a flower day. And it will stay a flower day until the 30th, where at 1:32 p.m. it becomes a leaf day. You might find that some days are split like this, and some may have no optimal parts of the plant to tend, and those are the days where it's generally recommended you take a bit of a break. Some people choose to pay close attention to when the moon is ascending and descending, as well as waxing and waning. As constellations and moon phases are not something I personally know much about, I myself feel far more closely related to the farmers of the original 1924 course. I think everything that Maria Thun said sounds like a really good enough idea, but my fundamental understanding beyond practical implementation is lacking. I choose to follow what Maria Thun's calendar tells me, making my own choices based off the weather and ground conditions as well. Sometimes it's just not possible to tend to your root crops on root days, and the calendar, whilst followed to a T by some people, is generally taken as more of a loose guide. The biodynamic calendar very much feels like something that you should just go out and try. It doesn't really lend itself to a long-winded explanation, as next session's topic of the preparations might. So this is where I'm going to leave you now, because there doesn't feel like much more to say, other than to go and have a look at the calendar. You can buy a copy from the Biodynamic Association, Florist Books, or your local anthroposophical bookstore. As always, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you all again in 2 weeks, on Monday the 10th of June, to discuss the preparations. And until then, I shall read you out with another of Adam Bittleston's prayers. Spirits of the heights have sent their messengers. Upon the sustaining earth may we be upright. Spirits of the heights have sent their messengers. Flowers and trees around us, upon the living earth may our hearts waken. Spirits of the heights have sent their messengers. Birds and beasts about us, of all earth's offspring may we be guardians. Spirits of the heights have sent their messengers. Light and dark, life and death, in all earth's changes, Christ may we find. Amen. It does as well to not forget that we are influenced by more than just the earthly bodies around us. And with that, I wish you a good rest of your evening. God bless, and good night.